I'd like everybody ready? I'd like to call the order of the Planning and Zoning and Building Committee. Roll call, please.
Alderman Artwood.
Here.
Alderman Curielli.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here. Here.
Alderman Sismarski. Here. Alderman Ames. Here. Alderman Artie Woods.
Here.
Alderman Catalano.
Here. So we have a quorum. Next, I need approval of the minutes of September 4th, 2023 for Planning and Zoning and Building Committee meetings.
So moved.
Second, it's September 14th.
14th, did I say that?
I got you.
Okay. So any corrections to the minutes from September 14th? There's none. All in favor say
Aye.
aye. Motion carries. Next is a report and recommendation, and that's on the special use and planning unit development and variation upon lot consolidation for property at 895 North Woodell Road. Director Springer, do you have a brief presentation?
I do. Thank you, Chairman. So as you mentioned, the subject property is 895 North Wooddale Road. It's pictured in the aerial, and the current use is a truck parking lot. The petitioner is proposing to redevelop that property and to an industrial warehouse slash office building. And it's currently located right at the intersection of Thorndale and Wooddale Road, the southeast corner. And the site itself is 7.6 acres. There are 3 lots involved, and all are under the same ownership. There currently is on the lot surface truck parking, a detention area up at the north area of the site, and a private drive that serves access to the property to the east. The zoning is C2 with an overlay with the interchange, with the Thorndale interchange overlay. Photo of the property. What the developer is proposing, or the owner is proposing, is about an 86,000 square foot industrial speculative building. There are 4 potential office spaces, and they do not know yet who the tenants are. There would be 113 parking spaces. Only 93 spaces are required, so they have many in excess. They would have loading docks, 4 drive-in doors, plenty of truck parking. The 2 new access points for the site will be a truck access off of Thorndale Road. It would be a right-in, right-out proposed. They would continue to use the private drive as access for passenger vehicles on this access point on the private road to the west, and for truck traffic on this access point to the east. They are proposing a new access point for passenger vehicles that will be right in, right out on Wooddale Road. They are required to get approval from DuPage County for this access point and IDOT for the other. They are providing stormwater detention for the site, and it's going to be in 2 underground storage vaults, basically in this area and in this area. The site and the parking lot will be landscaped in accordance with the city code, and they are increasing the size of the stormwater detention over what's existing, currently existing, by about 15%. The exterior of the building has some articulation and some design. It's basically precast with glass panels and aluminum frames. What they're requesting for approval is the special use for the PUD. The warehouse itself is a permitted use, but in the TIO overlay zoning district, it requires a planned unit development for all new construction. They also need a zoning variation request to reduce the lot size from 10 to 7.6 acres. The lot is existing, so it's basically an existing condition. The deviations that they're requesting is parking in the front yard, parking between the front of the principal structure and the front property line, which sounds the same as number 1, but they're actually 2 separate code provisions, so they do need to have both varied. And then the driveway offset. This driveway, driveways are required to align directly with driveways on the opposite side of the street, or they have to be offset at least 150 feet from across the street. That's to assist in turning movements and not, traffic conflicts on those. This is a right-in, right-out, and it's obviously a four-lane road, so it's not an issue.
Mayor?
So stormwater is 15% more. On the drawing I have, it shows a pond to the east. That's for the other building, I take it?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have parking at other spots in the front. So I take it those all needed deviations as well? Like, actually, the Nippon building has parking in the front. Amazon has parking. The hotel across the street, well, it's on the side of the building. So is that a technicality?
So when the TIO overlay district was adopted, the intent was to make the area a more business park type character for the community. So as things redeveloped, the idea was that they would comply with these new standards. But you're right, a lot of existing buildings do have that, and they're allowed to continue and change in use. So it's really just for new construction.
Okay. And
Go ahead.
I mean, driveway, I kind of drove up and down some of the streets, and I didn't see too many driveways that aligned with each other. I mean, that's even a question.
Alderman Woods?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the special use for planned unit development and variations as requested upon lot consolidation for property at 895 North Wooddale Road.
Second. Alderman Sismarski, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Springer, do we have a current UDO for the parking of vehicles that do not belong to businesses?
So it is.
Bensonville has one. So I just want to make sure, we need to put that in to
We
clean
do.
up our
So
industrial park?
It actually is a condition of the ordinance, and it's not allowed per our current code.
I know other towns have that, so that's why I want to make sure we're trying to clean up our industrial area, so
Exactly.
not rent spots out.
Exactly. So one of the conditions for this is that they can't rent it to a third party. Those parking spaces have to be used by businesses that are
That's the
occupying
same.
the building.
Same code as Bensonville now, all right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Director, you done?
Oh, I'm done.
Okay. So if there's any other questions, roll call then. We have a motion, we have a second, correct? Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Currielli,
Yes.
Alderman Messina,
Yes.
Alderman Jacob,
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski,
Yes.
Alderman Ames.
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes. Then motion carries. Okay, thank you, Director.
Thank you, and when can we start?
Yep. Next is,
Answer.
here we go. Items to consider at future meetings. We have a building code amendments coming up in November, and we also have the data center. That's coming up in December. Any other items to consider at future meetings? Alderman Woods?
Thank you. Stacy, do you know what codes we're looking to amend? Could we get like a list to spark, maybe we could add some things if we're, if
For the
we're
building codes?
amending some of the building codes?
Go ahead.
We are getting right now proposals to hire a consultant, or we
Okay.
have 4 proposals. And so what they are recommending is us going to the most current version, which is 2021. And it would involve updating, I believe we have 14 codes that need to be updated.
Get a different consultant, one that doesn't want to go to the new code. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Mr. Springer, the data centers, do we know from Transwestern whether or not there's going to be 1 or 3, or if they're still staying with 1? for now with Unisource?
So Phase 2 of the development, which has been approved and annexed to the city, which is immediately at the southwest corner of Bryn Mawr and 83, that particular 24 acres is what they've submitted for approval for. They are proposing 2 buildings on that portion, that site, and they're seeking final approval for the first building, which will be at the westerly end of the site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If there are no other questions on future items, then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn. Thank you.
Savannah White.
I'll call to order the meeting of the Public Health, Safety, Judiciary, and Ethics Committee. But the note taker note that the same council members are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for October 12th, 2023, the Public Health, Safety, Judiciary, and Ethics Committee minutes. Any comments, questions? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one report tonight, a municipal regulation for the adult use of cannabis dispensaries. I believe in December 1919, the committee voted to prohibit the sale of cannabis in the city, although the state legalized the sale of marijuana beginning in January 2020. In the spring of 2021, a number of council members went down to Springfield, had conversations with other council members, and learned that they had some very good successes with sale of marijuana in their municipalities, averaging about $300,000 per dispensary. So the question has come back to us: should we reconsider our position on the sale of cannabis? Alderman Sismarski.
So a question to the council would be, we have an ordinance right now that says on Irving Park and Wooddale Road, we don't allow strip clubs, tattoo parlors, adult bookstores, pawn stores. You have to ask yourself, would this have been on that list of nots then? Or should all those other ones be taken off that list right now?
Who are you posing the question to? Chief?
To
Yeah.
chief or to anyone, to the council, to,
Chief, want to run through maybe some
I
background?
mean, you're picking and choosing. Right now, you're saying to allow cannabis, which is legal, which everything else is legal.
Chief?
Yeah, so during the strategic planning, it was discussed on what paths forward there are if the council wanted to move this direction. So we laid out some options, some background on this did become legal in Illinois back in January 1st of 2020 with the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. There's several different taxes that the city would benefit from, including the sales tax, the cannabis purchaser excise tax, and the municipal cannabis retailer occupation tax. Community development has laid out some paths and options and recommended a structure on how you can move forward if you wanted to. So there's a lot of options to consider in there. And we presented some options on moving forward. Option one being an advisory referendum if the council wished to go that way. If that is the way the council wishes to proceed, there's some deadlines that would need to be met before the next election if that's the direction you want to go. The second option is to bypass a referendum and handle this at the committee and council level at a future meeting. And the third option is to maintain the status quo and leave it as is.
Alderman Artiewicz?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve one cannabis dispensary within the city of Wooddale.
Second. Discussion. Mayor, please.
So you're making a motion, instead of no referendum, you're making a motion for one question for the attorney, couple questions. Are we allowing this on Wooddale Road and Irving Park, or is this just an industrial park?
I think we're
Hold on,
limited
hold on.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
And Mr. Bond, so this would be just like liquor licenses. They send a letter and they either get yes or no. I'm just curious, how's that gonna work?
Yeah, I think what you would do, though, is you would first determine where they can be located, and put them in, a zoning classification that is not going to be on your major, thoroughfare where it's going to be. There's some restrictions on placing it, near churches, schools, things of that nature. So if it's the council's direction to move forward with it, the next step in that process would be, are you going to go through, and it sounds like it'll be direct without a voter initiative. At that point in time, then you have to make a determination as to where the zoning classification is going to be. Are you going to limit the number of them, and exactly what is it you're going to allow? Are there going to be size restrictions? Are there going to be, certain signage restrictions and so forth as part of it? So that's a bigger discussion that goes into the specifics and the details for it.
Mayor, please, did you have a follow-up?
No, it's basically where are we gonna allow it? So I heard to make a motion and a second, but there was nothing else to it, so I'm just curious as to what we're thinking.
Alderman Woods?
I was gonna say, I don't think that we could add all the moving pieces this evening, but maybe add direction to city attorney and staff to put those things together, the limitation on where it could go, the number, the sizing, so that we have the correct language for all that. That makes sense to me.
Manager?
Yeah, I was just going to ask for some clarity from Alderman Artie Wood's motion. So essentially what you're saying, your motion is to go with, I think it's option 2, essentially. Okay. And then we would figure out what is option 2 in the future.
Yeah, I kept the motion general intentionally. I think the motion would be 20 minutes long if I included every caveat to what we would need.
Alderman Jacob?
Yeah, a couple questions for the chief. So based on the information I read, and you talking to the police chiefs in surrounding areas, there's no, everybody thinks there's going to be more crime because of this. And you found that that's not really truly the case?
Yeah, correct. That's not what's being reported to surrounding agencies that have instituted dispensaries in that town.
Okay. And then it looks like from the list you gave us, out of 30 communities surrounding us, 23 of them allow this. 7 do not allow it. And last month alone, they collected $139,529,000 basically in revenues. That part of that could be coming to the city to be used for. And we just had this discussion. I mean, we're trying to do special events, and we need extra funding for that. And we don't want to cut special events because that's important to the human unity. And then the third thing I'd like to say is, if we're going to do it, if you just do it in the industrial park, I think that's, in other communities, it's right on the main thoroughfares. I mean, if we're only going to allow one, I really don't see a big issue. I mean, we have cigar shops on Irving Park Road. Again, I think if we're gonna do this, to make as much sales taxes revenue as we can for the city to be used to help pay other things, you might as well have it where you're gonna make the most revenue. I don't think hidden in the industrial park is gonna do it, to be honest with you. Just my opinion, though.
Alderman Sismarski?
And that question is Alderman Jacob. Now you're picking and choosing. Now you're telling someone that everything else is legal. They can't be on Irving Park Road. So you do need to go to exec session and have this hashed out. Who else can be allowed on Irving Park Road? Because you're saying it's okay for cannabis to be there, but not a tattoo parlor, a pawn store, a sex shop, whatever. But it's okay for pot to be there. That's why we need to sit in the exec session and go over all this. They all bring revenue into the city. You're picking and choosing a major income.
Well, I guess if I could just respond to that.
That's why I said it before.
Alderman Jacob, please.
Again, this is in 23 out of 30 communities. I don't see strip clubs in 23 out of 30 communities. I don't see tattoo parlors in 23 out of 30 communities.
They're everywhere.
Oh.
You just don't look.
Alderman Sizmarsky, please wait.
They're
your
everywhere,
turn.
you just don't look.
Alderman Sizmarsky, wait to be recognized, please. Alderman, please.
I get demoted?
Our mayor,
Welcome to the club.
So out of these communities that do allow it, do we know how many are just industrial park and how many are on their main commercial thoroughfares? I mean, I see them here, commercial, industrial, entertainment, two specific, commercial, industrial. When we say commercial, we mean regular Irving Park and Wooddale Road, right?
Correct.
And Addison, where are they? Right now, they're strictly industrial, but I heard they're having discussions about putting it on the main thoroughfare.
Alderman Woods.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Schaumburg, it's right by the mall,
Right.
right? It's almost the wonderland of cannabis over there. I think Villa Park, I think they're going up on North Avenue, right? That's right in there. So when they say commercial or business, I mean, it's their main drag business district. So I'm not necessarily arguing to put it on Irving Park Road, but I do have to agree with Alderman Jacob that we don't want to hide it either, so nobody can find it. And we may not want to put it at the corner of Irving and Wooddale Road. So again, staff and the attorney can work out some of the logistics of that and come back so that we can have something that's acceptable to everybody.
Alderwoman Ames.
Thank you. So I think the question tonight is for the cannabis dispensaries, not for a strip club or any other thing. So that's the issue that we're talking about tonight that's before us. So looking at other communities and how successful they've been with this, and to just leave it open to the city at large and not put it into the business park, I think is a good opportunity. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get anyone either, because there's other communities who have it approved, but they don't have a shop in town yet. I mean, nobody's come forward, and it would still have to go through the approval process of the CDC and the council to approve the location. So it's not just a given that it'll go at Wooddale Road and Irving Park. We wouldn't even, it's not guaranteed we're going to get anyone. It's just saying we're welcome to hear opportunities. So I think
Alderman Messina.
I guess reiterating a few points that have been said, it's highly restricted. We can restrict, once we approve it, we can restrict where it goes, how it looks. And then more importantly, I just think it's, for us, it's a timing thing. I mean, we may not all agree with whatever you want to call it, that extracurricular activity, but it's now a rat race for the revenue. There is so many municipalities that are doing it. It's, for me, if we're going to do it now, and let's do it big, as Alderman Jacob said, as opposed to waiting like we did with the gaming. And now there's gaming all over the place. And so it's kind of a waste to do it. So, yeah, that's it.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with Alderman Jacob as well. I mean, the communities at first didn't know really what to expect, you know, with what this was going to be, so they hid everything away in the industrial parks, and now you see it as, you know, the other Alderman Woods said it, right on Gulf Road in Schaumburg, in Villa Park on in Roosevelt Road in Villa Park. They're just kind of popping up all over the place. So the more visibility, as far as I'm concerned, the better to get that tax revenue so we can do more special events and more things for the community.
Mayor, please.
So, real quick, I'm looking at permit required, special use, okay, by right, is that because we passed the ordinance, or what do you mean by right?
By right would be permitted use. So it would only...
But if we only have, let's say we don't have any licenses open, like we do for the liquor. Right now, 0 licenses, they have to come and ask, right?
Correct.
But by right, that means we have 5 licenses and 5 people can come forward right away?
You can have both. I don't know, Attorney Bond.
Yeah, I mean, by right means that I'm sorry.
Attorney Bond, please.
by special use really gives you more control over the, some of the conditions you're going to impose on it. You just saw it with the previous agenda item on the last committee. By right, they'd have an entitlement, but as the mayor said, you can limit the number of them, so they're only entitled to do it if there's a license available, if they meet the criteria. Having it as a special use, you're going to be able to have more control and regulation over it if you need it. And so that oftentimes is a better mechanism for these, these types of uses. And at some point in time, you can make it a permitted use, and they'd have it as a matter of right. You can still limit the number of licenses and the conditions for those licenses. That's a distinction.
Alderman Woods?
Yeah, circling back to, we're competing with all the other communities. I think everybody's kind of relayed that in one form or fashion, but I don't want to make it too restrictive that it's easier to just go to Elk Grove, go to Addison, go to Bensonville, or go to Itasca, right? So we got to make it somewhat appealing. Again, maybe not on the corner of Wooddale Road and Irving, but we don't want to make it overly restrictive, so they got to go through 90 days or 120 days of zoning issues, and it's an unknown because it's easier to walk across the street where they'll give it to them right away. So at least starting out, I would have the restrictions as into the zoning or the area we want it. The number, I would open up one license. This is just my idea. And a few other restrictions or caveats that we approve, the facades of them, the signage of them, and stuff like that. The rest of it, I would make it as easy as possible for one of them to come into town.
Alderman Catalano?
Yeah, Chief, what was the percentage that the city gets on that for the residents out there, roughly?
So there's three different taxes. The first is the sales tax. State sales tax would apply to the sales of marijuana. The city would receive 1% from any sales within the city. The cannabis purchaser excise tax, that's per capita. And then municipal cannabis retailer occupation tax that the city can decide to levy anywhere up to 3%. And there's a collection fee on it that the state takes as well.
And what's the range of I know it's hard to determine the income, but an average, what's going around?
So the information is not publicly available. We're estimating anywhere from 200 to 400. But again, you could authorize this, and you could get any business that wants to come to Wooddale, so it could be on.
Okay.
Alderman Jacob?
Two questions. One is for our finance director, Brad. This money, I mean, the tax, the city could use it for anything we want to use it for, right? We wouldn't be restricted. So if we want to use it to help the water fund, or, I mean, what could we use the taxes for, the money for?
Director Wilson?
Yeah, I'll be looking to Mr. Bond here to make sure I'm not going off track, but it's my understanding that there's no specific statutory restriction on the monies. There is the overarching concept of an enterprise fund that is only supposed to be able to use revenues that it could ordinarily generate. So a water fund as a private business would not be able to sell cannabis. I mean, technically, I guess you could also point out that it wouldn't have video gaming. So we've kind of plugged that along as, a sin tax to help the residents out, if you will. But it's my understanding, he said, unless Mr. Bond corrects me, there's no statutory restriction on where that money has to go or what it can be used for. Aside from the per capita that has to go for policing and enforcement and education, but we're already handling that. So the sales tax and then the retailer's occupational tax, that up to 3%, there's no specific restriction on that at this time.
As long as it doesn't go up in smoke.
Do you have a follow-up, Mayor?
Yeah, so regarding the tax, we have the non-home rule sales tax, so that's 1%. Is that applied to this as well? I take it? So, okay, the attorney is whispering in my ear, he's not sure. So my other question is, so we can do 3% allowed per the state. I'm just curious because there's a non-home rule communities that could have gone higher. Do we know where these communities are themselves, what they charge? Because if we're at 3+1, now we're at 4, but everybody else is at 3, you just put yourself, people are gonna know that, well, you know what, I'll just go next door, I'll save 1%. Because these ticket items from watching specials on TV, they range from $100 and $150, and they go door to door, they deliver. It's amazing some of the stuff you listen to.
Chief Zito?
Yeah, I don't believe the non-home rule can go higher than 3%. I believe they're capped at 3%. I believe unincorporated counties can go to 3.25%, but I have to check and verify that.
No, but follow?
Follow.
Okay, so we go to 3, but we also get the non-home rule sales tax if it's applied, if it's allowed to be applied. Now we're at 4. So are we going to price ourselves out of the box right from the get-go?
Chief?
From everything I've seen, and I don't have the data in front of me, everybody has set it at the max of 3%.
Follow up, Mayor?
Again, so we max it at 3%, but we have a 1% non-home rule sales tax. If that gets applied, we've gone over the max, or are we only allowed to go 2%? That's the question.
Director Wilson?
Yeah, that's something that when we come back with the zoning clarifications, when I will clarify that. I do not believe that it will be subject to the non-home sales tax. I also, along with Chief Zito, believe everybody's just put it at the max. And I see your point though. But also, a number of the towns that have them already have a home rule or non-home rule sales tax, so they would run into the same issue we would. So, but that's we can bring that back. Sure.
Alderman Sismarski, do you have a question?
Director Wilson. Did they change the rule on FICA for banks? They can take pot money or drug money, whatever they want to call it. It was that you couldn't go to a secured bank; it had to be separate from another bank. And how would the city be able to do it since we use a institution that's already FICA approved?
Chief?
So for the individual businesses, they cannot use credit cards for purchases. Some allow debit cards. They have a certain vendor that allows them. But the businesses themselves, they can take the cash and deposit that in the bank without issues.
Thank you.
Alderman Woods?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch a couple things for some of the numbers, because I tried to find the number when you said you couldn't find it, and it is hard unless you pay for one of these services, which I wasn't about to do unless the city's going to pay it for me. But last year, Illinois did $1.5 billion in sales and generated $445 million in sales tax. Local governments received $146.2 million in cannabis disbursements, and I think there was only 170, depending on who I read, it was anywhere from 160 to 187 dispensaries throughout the state. So if you divide that 146 million by take a number of 200, I mean, you're at like 800,000. So that in tax. So that might be off, but that's just to show you roughly how much that's going to generate. And then my reading of the statutes, I can't remember if it was in ILC 410 or 720. I'm sorry, if I knew we were going to talk about it, I would have brought it to impress Mr. Bond. But I believed it read that you could keep the 1% and add up to the 3%, the 1% non-home rule tax, or the 1% that you had. That was a given, and then you didn't have to make it 3%, but you could raise it up to 3%.
Director Wilson?
Yeah, I guess, and I'll let the mayor correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the mayor just didn't want us to go 3 plus the non-home rule, which would effectively be 4%, and just price us out for that 1% that they might go to another town to save the dollar, just from a competitive advantage standpoint.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, so I think that's what the mayor was referring to. Yeah, because the 1%, the 1% standard rate, that's there regardless, and then so I think that's what he was talking about, competitive advantage. So yeah, you're correct in that.
Alderwoman Ames?
So Chief, when you read those 3 different taxes, you did say up to 3% on, I think, so you could essentially do 2% and then add the 1% home rule, so you'd be at 3 and not at 4, because you just said everyone maxed out on it. So that's your choice. You don't have to max out if you wanted to still stay 3 total, right? If that's what I'm hearing.
Chief?
Yeah, that's correct. You can set it anywhere up to a max of 3%.
Follow-up?
Yeah.
No.
No,
Alderman,
we're good. No.
Alderman Messina's next.
Just to be clear, did you say there's a breakout of that 3% that needs to be designated towards education?
No.
Okay.
Chief?
Yeah, Director Wilson, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe out of that 3%, the city would collect 98.5% of the 3%.
Director Wilson?
So the state, on all sales, the state remits a per capita fee to all municipalities, whether or not you have a dispensary or not. Currently, we collect, was it 1,700 about a month, 1,500?
Correct.
About 1,500 to 1,700 a month, just on the per capita tax that's dispersed to everybody. That's the money that we have to use for was it education or enforcement of the cannabis. So, or cannabis, yeah.
Follow-up?
Just so I heard you correctly, even if we don't have a dispensary, we're getting those monies, they're taking a percentage of it out. It has nothing to do with whether we have a dispensary or not.
That is correct.
That education money, okay.
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Mayor, please.
Yeah, just to go back on the tax, so Brad actually said it, there's other municipalities that have the non-home rule sales tax. Some are at 1 like us, some are at 3/4%, some are at 2% or higher. So that's why I'm asking, are they all collecting the 3% plus their non-home rule? I'm just curious. I mean, it may not make a difference, but when some people talk, they'd rather shop in DuPage versus Cook County because I think it's 2% difference. So some people will go to Oak Brook versus going to Woodfield, even though they're closer to Woodfield. That's all I'm asking.
Alderman Jacob?
Yeah, so, Pat, I was gonna ask, with that, I mean, we can, if we stay with 1 right now, it's very similar to liquor license, where we could say, okay, we're gonna add 1, if somebody comes in, we could add 1 just like the liquor license, correct?
Yeah, you would, I'm sorry.
Mayor, Attorney Bond?
Yeah, you would set you would set the number, and then at some point in time, if you wanted to have additional ones, you would just add that, and all you have to do is amend your code to add the additional number.
So it'd be similar to the liquor license?
Fairly similar.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Woods?
I think we're good. I think we could, yeah. Well, Alderwoman Ames.
Alderwoman Ames?
So for tonight, we're not saying how many, we're just saying yes or no.
Correct.
So we don't have to make that decision or do the logistics about that tonight.
Yeah, just prove it without any reference.
Right, okay.
We'll have that argument later.
Alderman Jacob?
Just one more quick question for Pat. I heard the mayor say something about deliveries to your house and stuff. That, I don't think I've ever heard of that, so I'm not sure what TV shows he's watching.
My kids have all moved out, so they get theirs moved at their places.
Have we exhausted all the questions on this topic? Good. We have a motion, a second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Artwoods?
Yes.
Alderman Currielli?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Ames?
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Catalano?
Abstain.
Oh, wow, that passes. What happened to the rest of the meeting? Items to be considered at future meetings. Police Department remodel on January 11th. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned. We have one more.
Calling the Public Works Committee to order. Let the minute taker note, the same people are in attendance. Make a motion to approve the minutes from October 12th, 2023 for the Public Works Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes. Report and recommendation. Approval of a professional service agreement between the City of Wooddale and H.R. Green for Phase 2 engineering services for the Elizabeth Drive multi-use path project in an amount not to exceed $117,953. That would be my motion.
Second?
Any questions? Alderman Woods?
Yeah, just one quick question. So on future meetings, or items to be considered, Elizabeth Drive Bridge Phase 2 engineering, is that the results of this, or is that a typo?
It's actually
Director Lang?
two separate projects, so this is for the bike path, the extension.
This is
from the
isolated,
driveway.
separate from the...
Correct.
Okay, I thought the bike path was part of the, integral to the bridge.
There is a
Bridge.
portion of the bridge project which includes the bike path from Addison Road to
Okay,
the
this
west
is-
side of the entrance of the Forest Reserve. This is the eastern extension.
Don't feel bad, I fell for it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on these guys.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Artwood,
Yes.
Alderman Currielli,
Yes.
Alderman Messina,
Yes.
Alderman Jacob,
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski,
Yes.
Alderman Ames,
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
That passes. Next, items to be considered at future meetings. Elizabeth Drive Bridge Phase 2 engineering, December, January. Do we have anything else to add? Alderwoman Ames?
Yes, I'd like to add on there, just to get back to the Veterans Memorial Park, the medallion on the building, that one empty spot, and the lighting of those. I know we've talked briefly, there's an update on that.
Director Lang?
So we did actually install a couple new light fixtures out there. I haven't been by to see how it looks at night yet, but we did replace two of the light fixtures that weren't functioning. So we hopefully have that covered. As far as the medallion, we had run into some issues with the Department of Defense getting the proper permissions, but I'm hoping to have an update on that soon.
Okay, thank you.
Is that something we need to add to the ad or no? Okay. Anything else? Make a motion to adjourn.
Vote.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.